Hey everyone, it's Book Crazy Katie, and today's video is my January through March 2018 reading wrap up, and please check me out on social media at the following links.
Hey everyone! You're probably wondering why we're on Goodreads and it's showing you my Goodreads app page and we're on my read books. But I'm here to talk about the books I have read from January to the beginning of January to the end of March, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to try to go through this quickly. I actually recorded this whole video and forgot that I had a setting that make it so internal sounds were turned off, and I was gonna do another video where I just recorded on my phone what I wanted to say, but with this one I want the sound to be on and forgot to turn it back on, so I just already did this and a little frustrated. So far I've read 19 books this year from January 1st to March 31st, and those are what I've completely read. And this year is very different, and only in the last couple of years have I started to read audiobooks and enjoy them. I didn't like them before and hadn't ever enjoyed them. And there's ones that I like, and then there's ones that are pretty awful, but I'll make myself listen to them anyway. And there's ones that are somewhere in the middle. I guess they're like regular books, but I feel like it's easier to find books, to physically read books and enjoy them is more easy for me than it is to find good quality audiobooks. But I have read quite a bit of them this year, and I think some of that has to do with when I ride the bus a lot, I can listen to it while I'm getting ready for work, and sometimes I can do it when getting ready for bed or cooking. It's just multiple opportunities, and during the winter it was easier to, if I wanted to read, it was easier to be able to do it with an audiobook than trying to do it on a dark bus on the way home. I'm going to go through the books I've read this year. I'm going to tell you what else I have that I'm currently reading right now. I am going to tell you the one book that I know of that I DNF'd and just, go from there. Alright? And so the first book I read this year was Matilda by Roald Dahl. It's amazing. It's fantastic. I grew up watching the movie and was a very big fan of it, and I feel like the movie did the book justice, and I think it actually added to it a little bit too. But fantastic book, fantastic movie, and I hope that if I have kids someday that I can pass the love for Matilda on to them and they can actually grow up reading the book, unlike me. And then the next book I read was Heartwood by Belva Plain. I read Belva Plain when I was younger. This was a very awesome book. It dealt with this lady's married, how she felt in it, and her interactions with the rest of her family, and I just thought it was well done. I enjoyed Belva Plain books from the time I was in 7th grade to sophomore year. I read a handful of them. I don't know why I stopped reading their books, but they're pretty fantastic. And then I read 13 Reasons Why. I had wanted to read it before I knew there was going to be a TV show. I watched the TV show last year, or shortly after it first came out. I really enjoyed it. It took me a little while to get into it, like a few episodes before I was hooked, but I really enjoy. The show was really good. I know it was controversial as well as the book not handling mental health very well, and or mental health issues very well, and I know the TV show was criticized for for showing the suicide on camera and giving people ideas on how to commit suicide or making it more real. But I didn't like the audiobook for 13 Reasons Why, and I don't know how much I would have liked the story on its own either if I had physically read it. I think it was an okay book, but not great. Um, then I read Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, and I don't think I want to read any more of his books. I don't know where to rate this book. It's somewhere in between a 2 and a 3, and I just don't know where to rate it. It was very confusing. There were parts of it that drew me in quite a bit, but other parts didn't, and just, it's very strange and not sure how to do it, and I don't know how well the message reached me. I just I just didn't enjoy it that much. And then I read How to Start a Fire, which is an audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. I've already read Elisa Lett's book before, and I enjoyed that, but I gave it a lower rating than this. This is a 5-star read. It's about these 3 girls that became friends during college and following their lives, and one of them has an issue with alcohol and drugs, and she's does things either that she did things that some of the things she doesn't even remember, but it had consequences on everybody around her's life, and all the people around her are having to deal with like the fallout from that, as well as their own choices too. Like the other characters aren't perfect and they make their own life mistakes, you know. So, but it was a very fun story to read and listen to, and I think the narration was pretty good for it too. And then the next 2 books I read were by the same author, Maria Semple, and it was also, both of them are audiobooks as well, and they were narrated by the same person, and it's the lady that voiced Pepper Ann. You will have to look up what her actual name is because I can't remember it and didn't commit it to memory. But Where'd You Go, Bernadette, I liked a lot more than Today Will Be Different, and I will read them back to back, and I really liked Where'd You Go, Bernadette, and I could see why fans of Gilmore Girls says that if you like Gilmore Girls, you'd like Where'd You Go, Bernadette. It's very witty, really fast-paced, and really awesome, and has, this, like, cast of quirky, zany characters. And so, I can see why people like that. And then the next the next book I read, we're getting into some of these books are going to be part of my 5-star predictions, and you're going to know about it. But I read Avenue of Mysteries and Anne of Green Gables. I had them both as part of my buddy read 12, Anne of Green Gables was the buddy read, and that continued after my 12-hour readathon because I did not complete Anne of Green Gables during that time. I did, however, get to finally finish reading Avenue of Mysteries, which I had already been pretty close to the end when I started the 12-hour readathon. So I was proud of myself for doing that. I was proud of myself for getting about 12 and a half hours read during that weekend, and I had other stuff that was keeping me pretty busy during the time too, so I felt like I was accomplishing both getting things done and reading. After that, I read Revolution, which ironically I've apparently, and maybe it's not really irony, but at some point I've read Revolution before, and I really don't remember rating it before, so maybe it's not real. I gave it 4 stars, and maybe it's not quite there because I've read this book once before and forgot about it. It's about a girl, Andy, who's dealing with the loss of her brother, and her father ends up taking her to France, and she doesn't want to be there and doesn't really enjoy being around her father at all, and she comes across this journal that was written by this girl during the French Revolution who had been in contact with the prince, and she gets to see, she gets invested in this life and feels a close tie to the girl in the journal. And I read My Lady Jane, which has been talked about since it came out on BookTube and highly praised, and I can see where all the praise is. I love the book. It was amazing, and I can't wait to be able to read My Plain Jane. And then I read The Book of Unknown Americans. It's a beautiful story by Christina Enriquez, and I gave that 5 stars, and it is probably the most the book has made me cry in quite a while, and I think a lot more people out there need to read this book. It has some awesome commentary on what it's like to be an immigrant, whether it's you are a documented or undocumented, or you have attained citizenship, or the person has attained citizenship in the US, and just deals with like the struggles of being an immigrant, and also deals with the way immigration is handled in the United States in general. I think that it's a nice view, and that's not all the book is about. It has, it follows this family and these 2 families, and this one family comes from Mexico because their daughter has significant brain damage, and they are trying to get her into a good school and trying to, you know, get it to a point where she's closer to acting the way she used to before her accident happened. And the other family is a boy that lives in the same is following a boy's family who lives in the same building, and the two kids end up developing a friendship and falling for each other. And so it deals with like first love issues too. The next book is another audiobook that I read, and it was Britt Marie Was Here. Maybe I would have enjoyed this book a little more if I physically read it, but it wasn't quite as good as A Man Called Uwe, which is also written by Fredrik Backman, but it was a pretty decent book. I just didn't feel like Britt Marie was as lovable as Uwe ended up being. And then I read the Magnus Chase series, and I am pretty happy I did. I'm glad I read it, and I gave the first book 4 stars just because I felt like it took longer than his other books in and setting things up, but I can understand why it did it. It's about Norse mythology, and not as many people know about Norse mythology as they know about Greek and Roman mythology. So I understand why it might have come out a little slower paced and took longer to set up. But don't get me wrong, it got a 4-star rating, so it's still a pretty good book, and it was enjoyable, and it was quick paced, you know. And the other thing I have to say is, like, I think The Ship of the Dead is my favorite series ending that Rick Riordan has written thus far as what I've read. And I've read the Percy Jackson series, The Heroes of Olympus, and now Magnus Chase. And out of the 3, Magnus Chase had my favorite series ending. And I hope to see more of the characters that are in the Magnus Chase series because I really enjoyed them, and I'd like to see more things as they go. And I'm glad that these books receive a lot of love because I can see how there are people out there that probably wouldn't like them, especially like certain parents and stuff that wouldn't like them because they don't like some of the representation in the book, but I think it was pretty fantastic and it was fun to read about. And then the next 2 books I read were audiobooks, and the first one is written by Jennifer Weiner, who I've previously read. I read In Her Shoes and Good in Bed, and I feel like there's 1 or 2 others I've probably read by her, but I can't think of them right now. And I've previously enjoyed her books, and All Fall Down I just really didn't like. The character was annoying. She just had this negative view on everybody around her. She was addicted to pills, and pills were destroying her life, and it was all like pity me, and I couldn't stand it. It just was no. And I don't think I really like the whininess of the narrator's voice while doing most of the narration, so I just really didn't care for it. And then there was Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, which I also didn't care for, and it follows this guy, Greg, I want to say his last name's Gaines, and he finds out that this girl that he had briefly hung out with while he was in middle school, and then one day just stopped talking to her and ignoring her because he didn't want the whole school thinking that they were dating or that he liked her or whatever. And he just stopped talking to this girl one day and didn't hear back from her. And then he's in college. I think he's like in his senior year, or not college, high school in his senior year. And his mom tells him that this girl's dying and has cancer and makes him hang out with her. And then him and his buddy Earl start hanging out with her, and they're both, Greg and Earl have been shooting movies their whole life together, and he talks about that and just getting into college and stuff, and I just really didn't care for it, and I didn't like his views on life or his views on other people. And then just like there's something about the tone of his, like, of the book and like the main character that I really just did not enjoy, and like I really don't know how to describe it, but I generally do not enjoy books that have this like where the main characters are written in this way and with this like view of life and other people, and it's just a big turn off for me, and I don't know how to pinpoint it. So if you guys can tell me what exactly what you would say that is and how to describe it, please tell me, because I really don't know how to like describe it, but I don't like it. I felt the same way reading The Fault in Our Stars, but I did enjoy that book more than this. There's just something. It's not, I think it goes somewhere along, because I feel like a lot of times these books have the manic pixie dream girl in it, but it has something to go along with that like feel in a book, but I don't really care for it. It was trying too hard to be different or quirky, and really just didn't like it. And so next we're going to go into other books that I am currently now reading that I have read parts of it in the last 3 months, so just going to tell you. So the first one is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I hope I said that right. And I've started that book in like November. It is a giant book. It's like that thick and then like that wide. It's like a mini like foam book or something, you know, and parts of like when you are just in the story, it's pretty awesome, and it deals with this whole like it's a story within a story within a story. I don't know, there's like 2 or 3 layers of story, and it has to deal with this house that is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, and it ends up having this whole like maze like quality, and there's this creature, and like so far it's barely scraping the edges of the horror. It's a postmodern book, and I wish I could tell you more about postmodernism. Parts of the book are very interesting, and like the story itself is interesting, but then there's all these like footnotes and things that draw you out of the book and out of the story, and every time that it seems like it's actually building up and you're getting into like the thick of the book and the thick of like the content, it just takes you somewhere else. And so I've been struggling to read it a little bit, and then for a couple weeks now, I think I've been reading The Swiftly Tilting Planet very slowly, and this is the 3rd book in A Wrinkle in Time series, and I think the books are going downhill as it goes. Like, I quite enjoyed A Wrinkle in Time. I gave it 4 stars. I wanted a stronger ending from it. It was okay, but I just saw it going where it did, and I just would have liked to have seen more. And then the last book that I'm currently reading, I started like last week, and it's The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I know this book is highly praised on BookTube, and I just wasn't sure if I wanted to read it, and read in the description, and I saw it on sale on like Kindle, and I didn't buy it. And then I saw somebody at work reading it and asked her if it was good, and then she's like, oh, you can borrow it. And so like a couple weeks later she brought it in and lent it to me, and I haven't gotten to it yet and I told her it was going to take a while, and I hadn't gotten to it yet because I was working on my future 5-star reactions, which I need to film that pretty soon and just get it up. You guys have a pretty good idea, but I just want to do a formal reaction video to just how it went overall. As you guys can see, it went pretty well for me, and I had a pretty good thing, and I hope to do it again in the future. But I just haven't been sucked into the story yet. I don't know if it's going to happen. Maybe it will. I just feel like so many characters have been introduced already. And then the other thing I was noticing is that there's already quite a bit of editing mistakes that I am noticing, and a lot of it is lack of definite and indefinite articles in the book, and then I think I've noticed a couple spelling errors, but they've definitely kind of bring me out of the story, which I'm having a hard time really getting into in the first place. About the book that I DNF'd, I don't think I'm going to do it as in-depth as I did when I did this video before and recorded it with no sound. So we're going to go to my didn't finish pile. And it's loading, and it's loading, and it's loading. I have slow internet too, so it takes a while. And the book that I DNF'd this year so far is Elephant Keeper's Children by Peter Hoig. And it was very boring. It dealt with these children whose parents disappeared, and there are inspectors that are trying to find them. There's probably a lot more going on. I don't really think I got that far out of like the introduction of the book. All I know is I was listening to the audiobook for like 3 or 4 weeks, and like I'd borrowed it 2 or 3 times and it just was not going well, and I just didn't see the point in torturing myself by making myself listen to it anymore, so I quit. I'm thinking about at some point, and I'm not sure when I'll officially announce it, but I'm thinking about doing 2 different buddy reads, and I'm hoping this time I actually get some people that join in. But I'm hoping that one day people will want to read along with me. But the first one I'm thinking about doing is a Harry Potter readathon, or at least Harry Potter and the Saucer, not readathon. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and I don't know why that's so difficult for me to get out. Probably too many R's. I grew up with a speech impediment, so R's and L's are very difficult for me, and when there gets to be too many in a row, I start to stumble. But I was hoping to do a Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone buddy read, and maybe spending like a whole month on it, and maybe announcing it within 2 weeks to a month ahead of time, so there's time for people to decide if they want to join along. And I'm hoping to be able to read that and people will actually join me this time, and then maybe just either do a vlog or maybe just do some videos here and there, just capturing my reaction to the book and just trying to enjoy it, and I'm hoping that I end up liking it. Like, I've been hesitant for many years to read it, and I have reasons for it. I can't remember if I went into it on my 25 facts about me, but I definitely did mention I haven't read Harry Potter before. And then the other one that I'm hoping to do for a buddy read is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and I'm thinking with that book maybe to make it like a 2 month long buddy, 2 months to like get through the whole like book for the buddy read, so that way I don't feel like I'm being pressured to read this book so quickly, and you guys don't feel like you're pressured either. And so if people do come and join me on that, we'll all not feel like super pressured to read it quickly, because it's almost 800 pages long, and I don't want to feel like I'm being pressured. Hopefully it reads really easily, but if you guys are interested, please let me know. And I think that's it for this video. So, bye! Hope to see you again. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up video. If you're not subscribed yet, please hit subscribe in the bottom right hand corner and hit that little bell icon. Thank you. Bye!